But we have a special... Wow, you snuck in on us. They'll let anybody in our studio.
Yeah, they will.
Hi, Fabi. Welcome, welcome.
So today, draw from the tournament's standings point, draw is a great result for you?
Yeah, kind of a predictable result, I guess, considering both of our situations. And I chose a line which is kind of provoking that he takes on e5. If he doesn't, then we get an enormous fight. But considering the situation, probably taking on e5 is a very sensible choice. I mean, these are like some of the sharpest lines, which I think also Peter has played, where if white goes with bishop g5 instead of taking on e5. Some very complicated, well, not here, but instead of d takes e5.
Yeah, we were discussing it in the studio, that this is a very clear kind of dual choice. d5, very, very level. Bishop g5, huge mess. Who knows what's going on? Yeah,
and also unless you're very prepared for it, or if you remember it very clearly, it's tough to play bishop g5 because black can play h6, bishop h4, and then take on d4, which is a huge amount of complicated theory. And yeah, e5 is a move taking on c. Like there are pretty much endless choices, which I'm sure Maxime knows about, but didn't really make sense for him today. And I think he's played this exact thing against Magnus. It used to be like Magnus's pet line. This was the trick, rook d1, bishop g4. Magnus played this, I think, against Sergei Karyakin and also probably against Maxime. The point is rook d6, bishop f5 is cleanly equalizing. It's a bit of a strange back and forth, but just tactically works out nicely. But I felt like at some point I misplayed it a bit and got slightly, at least like psychologically, slightly unpleasant for me. Maybe rook d8 wasn't, or I don't know, maybe king f6 wasn't right.
We were surprised actually by your decision to finally break the tension. Bishop takes e3.
Well, I'm just losing my d5 pawn in many lines, so I just decided that this saves it with a5. Because the point is, if he plays bishop b3 instead of knight e2, then I also have this like maybe I take on e3, a4, bishop d5, knight d5, rook d5, a3, and I first a4, take, and a3, and I just break up his queenside, and it probably liquidates very quickly to a draw.
Just in time.
Yeah, just in time, which is it is a little bit dangerous. And if I had played after knight e2, if I had avoided bishop e3, if I play a4, then I started to get worried that he plays like a3. Let's say I make a move like bishop c5, and then he brings the knight back again and tries to get it to b4. And if he achieves that, then I'm quite scared about potentially losing not just one pawn
for nothing.
One question I had while we were watching all this is, did you consider d4 instead of a5? Because that was my...
Yeah, d4, it's actually kind of what I had planned when I played rook d8, but then I realized cd4, bishop d4, knight d4. He has to lure the knight to d4. He can't play bishop b4 immediately. So here, bishop b4. And the problem is knight ec6, and suddenly I realize he takes knight... knight dc6, rook d7 I think is unpleasant. Rook ab8 or rook d8 or rook ab8, I don't know which one, and knight b3, and knight comes to c5.
Sorry, I lost you.
The other knight to c6.
The other knight.
Yeah, it's a choice. I mean, if the other knight, then rook takes d4, knight d4, and bishop b7. And unfortunately for me, he wins the pawn. Maybe I draw the rook endgame after rook ab8, but didn't really feel like finding out. And then knight dc6, it looks okay at first glance.
Right.
But rook d7, some move to defend this pawn, rook d8 or rook b8. Let's say rook b8, knight b3, I just... Like now, I look at it and it looks like maybe b6 is fine, but I was kind of scared to allow rook.
Yeah.
It's scary, right?
It looks unpleasant.
It doesn't look comfortable now.
So that's why I chose a5 and this whole thing.
Well, and finally you got a very interesting, unusual repetition.
Yeah, I thought he would play king f2, but he didn't feel like he really had anything. But I still thought I have to prove it. That's why I spent so much time on knight c6. The thing is, he was planning to repeat after knight c5 instead of knight c6, which he probably also mentioned. Yeah. But I was worried about the rook coming to knight c5, bishop b5, knight b3, rook c2.
Right.
And then I calculated some kind of ridiculous line starting with
Here
knight
he
F.
would
Yeah,
probably have
this is
agreed to
repeat,
the repetition, but you were afraid he wouldn't and play rook c2.
Yeah, he said g5 here. It's probably a fine move, but I just thought like king f2. What's my next move? And I'm always a bit worried that like I'm weakening too many pawns and squares. And but I did calculate something very funny with knight f5. I don't know if it's playable here. Knight f5
After rook c2?
Yeah.
All right.
King f2 is forced.
Yep.
Rook e6.
Okay.
And rook d3, there's knight c5, so that's not good for white. And knight f4, there's knight e3, which probably equalizes after. I mean, probably white should play knight d5. That's probably an equal position. But then I started to see like e4, d4, bishop d7, and I got very scared. And
e4.
d4, bishop d7. Like my instinct said maybe there's something here for black, but I couldn't. Also, I didn't see why I'm.
All of our knights are hanging, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of rook d8 doesn't work because the b3 knight also hangs if he takes and takes.
Ooh.
So.
Yeah.
Some...
E4. That's flirting with some serious danger.
Yeah.
So Fabi, now it looks like you have pretty much guaranteed your spot for the final four. And tomorrow you're playing world champion Gukesh with the white pieces. What will be your approach?
Well, I'm not sure. I don't think I've guaranteed it if I lose for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the math on that, but I
think you're at 98%. So.
Yeah, I really don't know yet. I'll have to think about it. It'll also depend on some of the other results today.
Absolutely. Fabi, thank you so much for joining us. Good luck in tomorrow's round.
Thank you.
As